to watch their exhibition game. They've got 5 guys back with experience. A couple of those guys that were in significant roles last year on the national championship team, 2 years ago on a team that was in the Final Four. So there's a couple of those guys. They've got a very good graduate transfer that can really shoot the basketball. And then they've got a bunch of young guys to go with the 5 or 6 guys that have experience that looked pretty darn good in the exhibition game. So a pretty good mix of experienced guys. And anytime you've got guys back from a national championship team, and that's a good place to start. And then a group of guys that, like I said, they sure look good in that exhibition game. So I can tell you, watching them, they had some graduation and they had some turnover, of course, but they don't play any differently. They're still going to play as fast offensively in terms of getting the ball from off a defensive board or out of bounds after a make into the front court of the opponent. They do that as good or better than everybody in the country. They've got to be in the top 3, 4, or 5 in terms of their ability to get the basketball off the defensive glass and into the front court. And that's very evident with this team, just as it was a year ago and just as it was 2 years ago. They want to throw the basketball inside. And even though they graduated the 2 starters, Hicks and Meeks from last year, and Bradley left and went to the NBA, they still are going to throw the basketball inside. So in terms of what they're doing, how they're approaching their offensive stuff, how they're approaching their defensive stuff, it doesn't look any different than a year ago or 2 years ago. They're going to push that thing really hard in transition. So they're going to test our transition defense. They rebound the basketball very well, so we're going to have to block out. And then we're going to have to handle pressure, that they throw at you with their defense.
No matter who your opponent of the year is in the regular season, after the close scrimmage, taking on a Big Ten team on the road and playing a top 25 ranked Division II team, how do you feel about your guys, this group going into a season opener?
I feel better today than I did a week ago, Gary. And I think part of it, guys, Hunter Rhodes is a senior. I know he's only been here for a year, but he's a senior, and he really prepared himself. And he's been out of practice for a month. We saw last year when he went out with that injury, that impacted our team a year ago, and he's been out of practice for 3 weeks. And so with our 2 oldest guards not being in practice for the last 3 and 4 weeks, just been trying to sort out through practice and give some guys some reps and give them some opportunities. It's been a little harder to get a handle on what our team's going to be able to do. And that's where when I mentioned the first half against Pembroke, to be able to go out and defensively do that job, do a good job on the boards, and offensively get 37 points. And like I said, that's as good as we have played in practice or a game. And so I feel like we've made some good progress. The mistakes we're making are ones that you can look at on film and are correctable mistakes in terms of, it might be blockouts, it might be transition defense, it might be rotations. You'll see some things offensively when you're driving it to find a teammate. Those are things that you always get better at as you go. So we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do, as we saw yesterday at times. We also saw at times yesterday we've got a pretty good crew again. And these guys are going to get better as we play because in the backcourt, these guys are all young. They don't have a lot of reps under their belt. So they're going to keep getting better and better. We've got a lot of work to do.
It looks like you won't redshirt Fife or Pickford. They'll play right away as true freshmen.
Yeah, they'll both play. Yep.
Also, I know you can't change it, but how do you like opening up the regular season with the defending national champions at their place?
Yeah, I think it's we're going to play as good a teams as we can. So whether we play them in the opener or we play them 2 weeks in or we play them a month in, Gary, as we know, we're going to play the best teams we can play. So you sort out where you play them and when you play them, and so it just happens that we've got as good a schedule, probably the best schedule we've had, non-conference schedule that we've had in now our 12 years here. And I think that's great. That's as we talk about with our guys. What else would you rather be doing? So I think it's a great way to start.